It was a Tuesday, which felt right. Tuesdays are for quiet rebellions, for the kind of night that starts with a whisper and ends with a story you have to tell someone, even if that someone is a camera and a million strangers. I was in my living room in our split level in suburban Ohio, the kind of house that smells of lemon polish and quiet ambition. The lights were dimmed, casting a warm glow on the plush grey sectional. My name is Daniel Foster, and this, as they say, is where the story begins. On the massive flat screen, the opening credits of a slick political thriller were rolling, a blur of ominous music and grim-faced actors. But my attention was elsewhere. My focus was split between two anchors in the storm of my own, very real life. To my left, on the cushion nestled against mine, was my son, Liam, 15 years old, all limbs and awkward grace, buried in a hoodie that smelled faintly of rain and cheap body spray. He was thumbing through his phone, the blue light painting his serious face. He'd come downstairs, not with a request or a complaint, but just to be near me. That alone was a rare and precious currency these days. And to my right, on the rustic oak coffee table, my wife, Evelyn, had painstakingly sourced from some artisanal marketplace, sat the third character in this scene, a bottle of Malbec, a deep, blood-red vintage from Argentina. It was already uncorked, breathing. A single glass, halfway full, sat beside it, catching the flicker from the screen. The scene was set, Netflix, a bottle of red wine, my son beside me. It was a tableau of modern, middle-aged contentment, a slice of life I'd have scrolled past without a second thought. I remember thinking, this is nice, this is enough. Then Liam spoke, his eyes still on his phone. Dad, you ever think about how weird it is that we can just conjure any reality we want in here? He gestured vaguely at the TV, where a car chase was now underway through a fictional European capital. Sure, I said, taking a slow sip of the wine. It was rich, with a hint of dark cherry. It's the magic of storytelling. No, I mean, he put his phone down, turning to me with that intense focus he got when a thought truly gripped him. What if we could do it for real? Not just watch stories, but, I don't know, step into them, fix the parts that suck. I chuckled. Like choose your own adventure for life. Honey, I can't even get the smart thermostat to stop blasting AC at 3 a.m. He smiled, but it was fleeting. Forget it. It's a dumb idea. It's not dumb, I said, and I meant it. This was the connection I craved. What story would you step into? He was quiet for a moment, the sounds of fake gunfire filling the space. One where the hero doesn't see the bad guy coming from a mile away, he said finally, his voice softer. One where the dad knows what to do before everything goes wrong. The comment hung in the air, weighted with a context I couldn't quite grasp. My relationship with Liam had been strained since my layoff from the marketing firm 6 months prior. The confident provider, the dad with the answers, had been quietly replaced by a man who spent too much time tweaking his resume and staring at spreadsheets. Evelyn had been a rock, picking up extra shifts at the hospital, but a silent tension had taken root in our home. Liam saw it all. Well, I said, trying to sound light, in the movies, the dad usually has a handy bottle of something strong when the plot thickens. I raised my glass in a weak toast. Liam's eyes flickered to the bottle. Can I try it? The question was a landmine. He was a good kid, on a roll, shy, more interested in coding and graphic novels than parties. This wasn't a rebellious demand, it felt like a test, a bridge. My mind raced through the parental playbook. It's illegal. It's unhealthy. Wait until you're 21. But under his gaze, all those responses felt like scripted lines from a very bad, very out-of-touch movie. A taste, I heard myself say. One small sip. And this stays between us. Your mother would have my head on a platter. A genuine grin broke across his face. I poured a minuscule amount into the empty water glass next to mine. He took it, sniffed it skeptically, and took a sip. He grimaced, a full-body shudder of disgust. That's what all the fuss is about. It tastes like rotten berries and pencil shavings. I laughed, a real, full-bellied laugh that felt foreign in the room. Told you. An acquired taste. I took another, savoring swallow of mine. The warmth in my chest spread. This was good. This was connection. As the movie droned on, something shifted. The political thriller seemed to warp. The dialogue became muffled, then crystal clear in nonsensical bursts. The images on screen, a senator giving a speech, melted and reformed. For a second, I saw my own face, pale and anxious, pixelated on the 4K display. I blinked hard. The wine, I thought. I must be more tired than I realized. You seeing this? Liam whispered, leaning forward. Seeing what? Bud. The screen. It's glitching. I looked. It was the standard Netflix menu. My heart thumped once, Hard. It's fine. Must be a buffering thing. But then the bottle caught my eye. The wine inside, in the low light, seemed to be moving of its own accord, swirling slowly, hypnotically, against the curve of the glass. Not a reflection, a deliberate, liquid dance. I reached out to pick it up, to prove to myself it was just my eyes, and my fingers brushed the neck. A jolt, like static electricity, but colder, shot up my arm. The room bent. It wasn't a sound or a light. It was a sensation, as if the fabric of everything, the sofa, the air, the very time in the room, had been plucked like a guitar string. The air pressure changed, making my ears pop. The scent of lemon polish was suddenly overpowered by the smell of ozone, like after a lightning strike. Whoa, Liam breathed, his hand clutching my arm. Dad. And then, as suddenly as it came, it was over. The room settled. The movie was back. The same senator now in a clandestine meeting. Everything was normal, except it wasn't. Because sitting on the coffee table, where there had been one bottle of Malbec, now stood two. They were identical. Same label, same vintage, same level of wine inside, same faint, shimmering swirl in the deep red liquid. Liam and I stared. A full minute passed, measured only by the pounding of my own pulse in my ears. Did you? I started. No, he said, his voice hushed with awe. I didn't move. How is there two? I reached out, slowly, terrified, and touched the neck of the original bottle. Nothing. Cool glass. I touched the new one. Another, sharper jolt. This time, an image flashed behind my eyes, a sun-drenched vineyard, a laughing dark-haired woman handing me a glass. It was gone in a millisecond. I jerked my hand back as if burned. Don't touch that one, I hissed. What is it? Liam's fear was morphing into a giddy, terrified excitement, the kind he got before riding a roller coaster. I don't know. My mind, a formerly reliable organ, was scrambling for rational footholds. A prank? Evelyn? No, she was on a night shift until 7 a.m. A bizarre manufacturing error? A twin bottle that had been there all along, but we'd cleaned that table before movie night. It was empty. Driven by a force I didn't understand, I picked up the new bottle. It felt different, heavier, not in weight, but in presence. The glass hummed with a faint, subaudible vibration. Without thinking, I poured a splash from it into my now empty glass. The wine flowed out, thick as syrup, glinting with a peculiar, internal light. It looked alive. Dad, don't, Liam said, but it was too late. I drank it. The taste was indescribable. It was the Malbec, but amplified 1,000 times, the dark fruit, the oak, the tannins, but layered underneath was something else. A taste of cold starlight, a whisper of turning pages, a pang of longing for a place I'd never been. It hit my system not like alcohol, but like a truth serum for the soul. And the world dissolved, not into darkness, but into potential. The living room walls seemed to become transparent, overlaid with shimmering, ghostly images. I saw our house, but decorated differently, in mid-century modern, then in cluttered Victorian paisley. I saw Liam as a toddler, laughing on the rug, then as a young man in a graduation cap. I saw Evelyn, but with a different haircut, wearing a wedding dress that wasn't the one she'd worn. The images flickered, fast and dizzying, all anchored to this room, to us, but different. Variations. Dad. Liam's voice was distant. Your eyes, they are glowing. I looked at my hands. They were semi-transparent, flickering like a faulty hologram. I was everywhere and nowhere. I was every Daniel Foster that could have been. And then, with a wrenching sensation that felt like my bones were being rearranged, it focused. The living room snapped back into solidity. But it was wrong. The grey sectional was now a garish orange chaise lounge. My tasteful abstract art was gone, replaced by a neon beer sign. The air smelled of stale popcorn and chemical lemon cleaner, not the good kind Evelyn bought. The TV was smaller, a bulky older model, playing a reality show at blaring volume. And I was different. I felt heavier, sluggish. I looked down. I was wearing stained sweatpants and a faded college t-shirt. A can of cheap lager, half empty, sat on the table where my wine glass had been. The second bottle of Malbec was still there, shimmering faintly amid the clutter of remote controls and junk mail. Liam? I croaked, my voice rough. A teenager slouched in the doorway, but it wasn't my Liam. This boy had lank, greasy hair, a surly downturn to his mouth, and eyes that held a familiar intelligence but were shrouded in resentment and boredom. He was wearing a band t-shirt for a group I hated. What, Dan? He sneered, putting a nasty emphasis on the name. Need another beer? Can't get off the couch yourself. My blood ran cold. This was a Liam who saw me as a disappointment, a fixture of the couch. A Liam I had worked my whole life to not become the father of. Where's your mother? I asked, my heart hammering. Work. Where she always is, he spat, picking up the slack. He looked at me with pure contempt. Then his eyes drifted to the strange bottle. What's that? You finally splurge on the good stuff. Gonna drink away the mortgage payment too? This was my life, but a terrible, fractured version of it. A life where I'd given up, where the layoff had broken me instead of redirecting me. A life where my son despised me. The horror of it was a physical pain. I stumbled to my feet, knocking over the beer can. No, I muttered. This isn't right. The bottle. It had to be the bottle. I lunged for it, but this alternate Liam was quicker. What's the matter? Secret stash. He grabbed it. Liam, no, don't touch it. He ignored me, his fingers closing around the neck. The same jolt I'd felt hit him. He gasped, his eyes widening, glowing with that same ethereal light. The room began to bend and warp again, the cheap lemon scent twisting into something metallic and sharp. Whoa, he breathed, not in fear, but in a kind of greedy wonder. What is this thing? It's a mistake, I yelled, trying to wrest it from him. It's showing us what could have been. Put it down. But he held on tight. Maybe what should have been, he said, and there was a terrifying curiosity in his flickering eyes. He was smart, this version of my son. Too smart. He was starting to understand. With a pop that deafened me, the world tore again. We were no longer in the depressing living room. We were standing in a pristine, minimalist kitchen of stainless steel and white marble. Morning light streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a city skyline I didn't recognize. Maybe Chicago, maybe Seattle. A sophisticated, beautiful woman in a sharp business suit was sipping espresso at the island. It was Evelyn, but her hair was ruthlessly styled, her eyes cool and assessing. Daniel, she said, her voice devoid of warmth. I see you've finally dragged yourself out of your den. And you brought Liam. To what do we owe the disruption? This Evelyn was a CEO, a powerhouse. This kitchen cost more than our entire Ohio house. And I, in my sweatpants, was a glaring anomaly. A kept husband. A failure in a world of high gloss. Liam, still holding the bottle, looked around, stunned. This Liam, my real Liam. I could see his own consciousness behind the eyes of this alternate, sullen teenager, was terrified. He was trapped in the reflection of a life where his parents were strangers in a beautiful cage. We need to go back, I said, my voice desperate, directed at my son within the shell. Back, the CEO Evelyn scoffed. To the life you've so expertly wasted? I think not. Give me that. She moved with terrifying efficiency, snatching the bottle from Liam's grasp. An interesting vintage. An asset. I'll have it analyzed. The moment her skin touched the glass, she froze. Her eyes, too, began to glow. A kaleidoscope of other lives, other choices, flashed across her face. Pain, joy, regret, triumph. She saw the life we'd left, the life in the Ohio split level, the life of shared struggles and quiet love. She saw the depressed couch Dan, the striving marketing Dan, 100 other Daniels. So many paths, she whispered, her corporate armor cracking for just a second, revealing a bottomless, weary sadness. I chose the wrong one. And she did something then that broke my heart. She took a direct, deep swig from the bottle. The effect was catastrophic. The world didn't just shift, it shattered. We weren't in one alternate reality anymore. We were in all of them, and none of them. The kitchen fractured like a broken mirror. Shards of different lives spun around us, a glimpse of a tiny apartment where Evelyn and I were young and laughing over ramen noodles, a flash of a hospital room where a much older Liam held my frail hand, a nightmare vision of an empty house, dusty and silent, a foreclosure sign in the yard. The sounds were a deafening cacophony of every argument, every laugh, every lullaby, every slammed door from a million possible timelines. We were lost in the multiverse of our own choices. Liam was screaming. I reached for him, our fingers passing through each other's spectral forms. Evelyn was a statue of anguish, the bottle clutched to her chest, its liquid now blazing like a crimson star. This is it, I thought, my mind fragmenting. We broke our own story. We'll be trapped forever in the what if. But in that maelstrom of chaos, one image burned brighter than the others. It wasn't a grand or glamorous vision. It was simple. It was our real living room. The grey sectional, the tasteful art, the Netflix menu, paused on that political thriller. And on the table, one single, ordinary, unmagical bottle of Malbec. The first bottle, the one I'd bought from the supermarket. The anchor. That was the key. The second bottle was a doorway to infinite possibilities. But the first bottle, that was our choice. That was the reality we had built. Flawed and fragile and beautiful. I had to get us back to our anchor. With a Herculean effort of will, I focused on that image. I pushed through the screaming timelines, not by fighting them, but by remembering. I remembered the smell of Liam's hair when he was a newborn, the feel of Evelyn's hand in mine at our vows, the sound of my own father's advice, given years ago. You show up, Daniel. However you can, you just show up. I looked at the spectral, terrified face of my son, Liam. I roared over the couch. Remember the scratch on the leg from when you crashed your RC car into it? The stupid popcorn ceiling we hate. Your mom's ugly favorite candle that smells like pine trees. I saw a flicker of recognition in his swirling eyes. He was clinging to his own anchor memories. I turned to Evelyn, 1,000 different versions of her spinning around us. Evelyn, our first date, the cheap Italian place that gave you food poisoning. You laughed about it. You said, at least it's a story we'll tell. Her CEO facade melted completely. Tears streamed down her face. The story, she whispered. We reached for each other, not our physical hands, but the essence of who we were. Our three consciousnesses, linked by memory and love, formed a tether. And we pulled, not on the chaotic second bottle, but on the memory of the first, on the choice of our shared, real, imperfect life. There was a sound like a universe sighing. The shards of reality rushed backwards, sucking into a single point of light. The silence was absolute. Then, the muffled sound of a car chase. I blinked. The grey sectional was firm beneath me. The tasteful abstract art was on the wall. The air smelled of lemon polish and pine. Evelyn's favorite candle was flickering on the mantel. On the screen, the political thriller was still playing, right where we'd left it. On the coffee table sat one bottle of Malbec, the original. It was just a bottle of wine. The second bottle was gone, as if it had never existed. I was back in my own clothes. I turned, my heart in my throat. Liam was beside me, his own Liam, his eyes wide with the residual terror of eternity, his phone forgotten in his lap. And from the doorway, still in her blue hospital scrubs, her coat half off, stood Evelyn. She looked pale, shaken, as if she'd run every red light to get home. Her eyes met mine, and in them, I saw the reflection of 1,000 lifetimes of regret and love. She had been there. She remembered. We stared at each other, the three of us, in a silence more profound than any the multiverse could muster. Liam spoke first, his voice small. We don't tell anyone about this, right? A hysterical laugh bubbled up in my chest, but it came out as a choked sob. No, son, we don't. Evelyn walked over, her steps slow and deliberate. She didn't go to me first. She went to Liam. She cupped his face in her hands, her thumbs wiping away tears he hadn't even realized he'd shed. She looked at him as if she'd just pulled him back from the edge of a cliff. Then she looked at the bottle on the table, and a shiver went through her. Finally, she came to me. She sat on the arm of the sofa, her hand finding mine, gripping it with a strength that was almost painful. She leaned down and pressed her forehead against my temple. The cheap Italian place, she whispered, her breath warm against my skin. I got so sick. But we still tell the story, I whispered back. She nodded, a single, firm movement. We sat like that for a long time, long after the movie credits rolled and the Netflix screensaver started its silent, drifting dance. The bottle of red wine remained on the table, untouched. We didn't need it anymore. We had drunk from a deeper well that night. We had tasted the terrifying vintage of infinite regret and had fought our way back to the only reality that mattered. This one. The story doesn't end with a grand revelation or a changed fortune. I'm still looking for a job. Liam still spends too much time on his phone. Evelyn still works long, hard hours. We argue about chores and screen time and money. But everything is different now. Now, when I come home, I really see the hideous popcorn ceiling, and I'm grateful for it. When Liam slumps on the couch next to me, I don't just see a moody teenager. I see the brilliant, curious boy who journeyed through hell with me and chose to come home. When Evelyn sighs after a double shift, I don't just see exhaustion, I see the strength of the woman who, in every possible universe, is my anchor. We never speak of that night directly, but sometimes, when we're all together, maybe watching a movie, maybe just sharing a pizza, one of us will catch another's eye and give a small, almost imperceptible nod. It's a silent toast, a reminder. We chose this. The mess, the bills, the uncertainty, the love. We saw what could have been, and we fought like hell for what is. So, if you're watching this, and you're having one of those nights, Netflix on, maybe a drink in hand, your family around you in all their ordinary, frustrating glory, pause for a second. Look at them. Really look. Because you never know when a simple choice, a moment of connection, might turn into an adventure you never believed possible. And you might just learn that the greatest story ever told isn't the one with the most explosions or the fanciest special effects. It's the one you're living right now. The one you get to choose, every single day. Just maybe think twice before you take a sip from the strange bottle. Some doors, once opened, are very hard to close. This is Daniel Foster, signing off. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hug your people. You have no idea how many